bringing it back to the club championship action and looking ahead to this weekend, we've got Dublin quarterfinals to look at. The Dublin Senior Football Championship quarterfinals. You'll see them on screen there, live on RTE on Saturday as well. Their first games that they're showing. I think they're just showing the first game, actually, Crokes and Ballymun Kickums. I don't think they're showing the game after. But it is Kilmacud Crokes versus Ballymun Kickums, Ballybofey St. Enda's versus Castleknock, St. Jude's versus Coola, and Raheny versus St. Vincent. So, Kilmacud Crokes versus Ballymun, that's going to be an absolute cracker of a game when you think of the players that are going to be on show. I mean, you're going to have Shane Walsh and Paul Mannion on one side, James McCarthy, Dean Rock. Obviously, Paddy Small's injured, so he won't be featuring. But you're going to have two absolute titans going up against each other. And look, Kilmacud Crokes will be massive favourites, you'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, like, Crokes are favourites from the get-go for the championship, in my opinion. Like, they just have a ridiculous panel, and they're all Ireland club champions. And look, in every game that Crokes played, it's not even like it's the way that they won games last season. And like when they got out of Dublin, like, do you remember how they beat Port Arlington? Do you remember how they beat the Downs? Like, where they just did not let them have the ball. They literally just, Port Arlington, I think it was, didn't get a point from playing the first half against Kilmacud. It was like I know it's kind of outlandish to use like other sports as a metaphor, but you know, it would be like how kind of Khabib was as a champion in the UFC, like that. You just absolutely bully them. You don't let them have a chance at all. You're playing my game now. Crokes really do, and they have this real aura about them that you're waiting for the punch. Do you know what I mean? You're waiting for the punch, because I was doing a bit of work with Dublin, and we were at the game for Kilmacud Crokes versus Skerries, and I was saying, do you know what they remind me of as well? I know fighting metaphors are a bit mad, but I said they remind me a lot of like Deontay Wilder, in the sense that like they can be losing for ages, but you just know it's coming. Like, it's coming. They're gonna get you eventually. And then I kind of vocalized it, and I said it to the people who are sitting beside me. I said that they just remind me of that. And I think 5 minutes later, Hugh Kenny got the goal, and we were like, there it is. There's the punch. Like, there's the killer instinct that they have. You look for 1 second, they'll punish you, and they always find a way to win. And it's one of those things that, like, I just can't see how they'd be beaten. Yeah, and so Ballymun also. Here's the other thing: Ballymun have the potential to beat Crokes. I think they do. They have the potential to do it. They have the players to do it. Paddy Small being gone is a huge blow. It's a huge blow. And there's a lot now riding on Dean Rock. A lot. Like, Robbie Bolger has emerged as definitely a talent and someone to keep an eye out on. But Paddy Small is, like, he's the main man for them in the forwards now. And him being gone is huge. And Crokes down the other end only have Mannion and Walsh hitting top form now. In my opinion, there is no way for me to look past Crokes to win this game. I think Crokes win this, and I'd be stunned if anybody manages to stop them winning the whole championship.
Yeah, like, cause I think the problem with Ballymun generally has been over the last couple of years is that, yes, that they do have some serious footballers, and Dean Rock, James McCarthy, Paddy Small, obviously previously he's injured for this game, but generally outside of that, like, you look at, as you said, with Kilmacud, like, I know they have Walsh and Paul Mannion, but as you mentioned earlier, like, outside of that, their talent is so supreme with Darren Mullen, who I think has been very unlucky not to come into the Dublin team in the last couple of years. Even look, further back, Theo Clancy, Dan O'Brien, Conor Ferris, very reliable between the sticks. So, like, it's not just Walsh and Mannion that drives this Crokes side. It's the other players there. It's the system. And it's the fact that they do now have a stranglehold, as you said, over this Dublin championship. And it does look like it's only going to go one way. I think the only team, in my opinion, that I think can stop them is Ballybofey. I think they're the only team I think they have the potential to really put it up to them. But at the same time, Ballybofey have had a lot of very flat performances in the last couple of years in big games where they've just completely been annihilated. So you just never really know what's going to happen there. But you're fancying Kilmacud to beat Ballymun by how much?
I am going, yeah, I'm narrowly tipping towards Crokes. I watched the Ballymun Ballybofey game, and I know that that's game one, and I know that the lads were fresh off Dean Rock's wedding a few days earlier, so maybe they were feeling a bit down in the dumps on that field. But I just looked at it and I just thought, like, it is a Ballymun team that I think, and I do not mean this in any sort of a disrespectful way, but I do think they're still a top side, and I still think that they have a championship in them. But I do think that they have peaked. I don't think that's a disrespectful thing to say. When you look at their best players, like Dean Rock, James McCarthy, they're on the wrong side of 30.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that their best years was probably 2020. 2020, they were awesome.
Yeah.
In 2020, they were just perfect. And the club championship didn't continue into the All-Ireland series. It would have given them a very good chance of going on and winning that All-Ireland club championship in 2020. I think that they were probably, arguably, if not the best team. They were so perfect in that Dublin championship that year. But I do think that Crokes now are just, it's their time. And I'm going for Crokes to win. I'd say by about 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, like, in general, like, what do you think? I know this is a very tough question to answer, but what do you think a team needs to do to beat this Kilmacud Crokes team?
It's very difficult. I think if you're looking at it, number one is lose the fear factor. So Skerries did that really well against Crokes. They did show them no respect. They got stuck into them. Castleknock the same. Castleknock hit Crokes for 2 goals in the first half. Or for a goal in the first half. They hit them for 2 goals overall. Skerries absolutely launched in high ball after high ball in the last 10 minutes and did have Crokes sweating at the end. That's what you need to do. Have no fear. And, like, I know that's such a basic thing, but Crokes have that aura now. They have that fear factor aura about them where you're waiting for Wallace to do something. You're waiting for Mannion to do something. And that can almost make you make mistakes. So the first step is lose the fear factor. Ignore them. Do as the Dublin team did. Ignore them. Regardless of who you're playing, treat them as any other opponent and ignore them. The next thing you need to do is, as I said, stop that early onslaught. Crokes are always able to get into a fantastic position, particularly last season when they got out of the Dublin Championship. They always had a fast start. Like, do you remember any game, Aaron, where Crokes were not ahead after 20, 25 minutes? I know that there's different games in the championship this year where they weren't ahead after 20, 25 minutes, and they are looking a bit different this year, but definitely do not let Crokes be 4 or 5 points up at any stage, because if you do, you've already lost. You're not coming back from that. Not against this team. They control the game from then on out. You need to make sure that you get ahead of them early. And then on top of that, Walsh and Mannion. Like, as best you can, just block off the percentage shots. It's a really, really hard thing to do to beat them because they don't really have any weaknesses.
No,
they don't really.
Yeah. I think to be honest with you, like, I think the best time to actually beat them, I think, is now. Is the Dublin Club Championship, because if they come through Dublin, they'll win the All-Ireland, in my opinion, because there's nobody in Leinster, I don't think, that can come near them. I think Naas, I haven't really kept an eye on the Kildare Club Championship, so if I'm wrong about this, I'm sorry, but if Naas are coming through that, I think maybe they can push them, they can somewhat challenge them, but generally I think Kilmacud Crokes are way too good for everyone else in Leinster. And then when you look at it further ahead in the All-Ireland series, like, they're, whoever's going to come through Ulster will obviously probably be the big test, and we'll see what happens from there. But I think now is the time maybe to catch them, just to catch them on an off day, to catch them on the hop. Like, you remember last year when they played Thomas Davis in the quarterfinals, and I think Thomas Davis scored 2 early goals and really, done very well. I think it was only a 3-4 point game. You look at it and think, if that had been a better team on that occasion, maybe they might have been caught. But as you said there, it's looking very unlikely.
That's it. Like, they've, in my opinion, it's one of those things where, like, they've achieved that aura now where you feel like you have to take every opportunity you get against them, and if you kick 2 or 3 wides, you're like, oh no, like, you've already messed it up.
It's the pressure of playing them as well, and then actually, it's even like playing, in my opinion, the Dublin footballers, the Limerick footballers,
it is
the Limerick hurlers, where you get into those attacking positions and you get those chances. And how many times in Leinster, I know Dublin would absolutely trash Meath, Kildare, and everything else, but a lot of the time, like Meath and Kildare were missing easy opportunities, easy chances. And you would think, why is that happening? And that's because of the pressure. You need to take those chances against the big teams.
But that's it. Even doing the media work, at Parnell Park for the games, like Crokes walk out and you're walking past Paul Mannion, Shane Walsh, Craig Diaz, Rory O'Carroll. And you're like, all these lads, it's very intimidating to walk past a group of lads that have however many All-Irelands, however many All-Stars, have kicked 9 points, Shane Walsh did, in an All-Ireland football final. Like, very, very difficult to go up against those lads, especially if you're a young lad, especially if you're 20, 21, and to be marking a Craig Diaz or to be marking a Paul Mannion and think, yeah, I'm going to get the best of this fella. You'd have to be a bit like low-key mad in a good way, or like really, really confident in your own abilities.
Absolutely. Looking at the other quarterfinals, Ballybofey versus Castleknock, what are you thinking there? I mean, Ballybofey be big favourites there, you'd imagine. But Castleknock, to be fair, tend to cause the odd couple of surprises here and there.
I've actually been impressed with Castleknock now in a couple of games that they played this year. I thought in the first game against Skerries, I thought they looked very good, very ruthless. Apart from that, like you're looking at other games that they had. The Kilmacud Crokes game, definitely they showed a lot of attacking ability in that game. Like they were really, really strong in that game. But Crokes just were too strong in the end and really killed it off in the third quarter. Like the Hugh Kenny goal in the second half really, really pushed them clear. And then in the game against St. Sylvester's, like St. Sylvester's had everything on the line in that game. And for Castleknock to come out and get the victory, in my opinion, really shows they are on it this year. You're looking at the form of the likes of Tommy McDaniel, who's really, really shooting the lights out. Kieran Kilkenny is chipping in, doing his bit again. Luke Swan is playing really, really well. I think they're moving nicely. I wouldn't write Castleknock off at all. I do mean this. I'd be less surprised if Castleknock beat Bowden than I would be if Ballymun beat Crokes. I don't mean that as a disrespect to Ballymun. I mean it as a praise and a compliment to Castleknock. I think Castleknock are really, really tidy this year. Brian Farrell in there as head coach seems to be a pretty smart man. Like he was a good footballer with Meath. And he's put together a really nice structure to this Castleknock team where it all seems to fit quite well together. Senan Forker at wing forward has really impressed me as well. Big, tall fella. Seems to get his hands on an awful lot of ball. Midfield as well, Kevin Stevenson, very, very strong. Like they're well drilled, this Castleknock team, and they put it up to Crokes for a long, long period. You look at Ballybofey on the other hand, very, very good start to the championship. 3 out of 3. You can't argue with that. So you do have to make them favourites. And like their victory over Ballymun was really, really impressive, the way they kicked for home at the end and clutch plays being made by Pascal, Warren Egan, people like that. So you would have to make them favourites. They haven't put a foot wrong. But I also do give Castleknock a good shot at upsetting them.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. Like, and I think it will be a very I think all 4 games will be, hopefully quite even anyway. I mean, Crokes might pull away from Ballymun towards the end, but hopefully they will be fairly competitive and entertaining. Make no mistake about that. St. Jude's versus Coola. What are you thinking there? I mean, Coola have made good bit of progress over the last couple of years. St. Jude's obviously in the final 2 seasons ago seem to have gotten back on side this time around. But again, like this is St. Jude's have looked better so far, you would say, in the championship. But like it could go either way.
It could, but I will lean towards Jude's on this. I've been really, really impressed with Jude's. The way they just dismantled Nafina in the first game was just hugely impressive. And then to put 4 goals past St. Vincent's in the second game. They didn't beat Whitehall by as much, but they already knew that they were going through. So I didn't really need to do too much in that game. Getting the win is fine in that scenario. They've got Kev Mack, they've got Liam Connaughton, who's looking hugely impressive. They've got the likes of Pat Spillane still kicking about. Like Jude's are a real threat. to this championship. And like, I actually would put them as a dark horse to go and win it again. The fact that they haven't won it yet is absolutely insane when you look at the teams that they've had down through the years. But yeah, I would be tipping Jude's to narrowly take this, even though Coola have some cracking players. Like, you don't even need me to go through them. O'Coffey Byrne at midfield, O'Callaghan, Fitzsimons. Like, they don't need any introduction, but I still would lean to Jude's.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, I think Coola have made great progress in the last couple of seasons, but as you said, like, when Jude's are on it, they're a very, very good side. And they were, we remember that game against Kilmacud Crokes 2 years ago. They actually pushed them quite close, in fairness as well. Raheny versus Vincent's. I mean, Raheny have looked very good. I mean, that's 7 goal spree they put out the last day, and obviously Vincent's coming up from Senior 2 last year. So, like, St. Vincent's might maybe be slight favourites, but Raheny have looked very, very good so far this year.
They have, and they've had a nice balance to them. The only issue, obviously, is Brian Howard's fitness. Like, how much, like, it doesn't look like he'll be able to play a part. Like, I seen him come out of Parnell Park there, like, in the boot. So don't think he'll be playing much of a part in the rest of the championship. So how much further can they go without him? Obviously, the key is Brian Fenton. Like, any team that has Brian Fenton in the country always has a chance. But it's what can they do around that? They've got cracking players like Sean McMahon, Keane Ivers, really, really good players. But I would actually lean towards Vincent's. Like, Vincent's really showed that dog that, in the last few minutes against Nafina, they were not going to lose that game. And like, you look, that was the Vincents of old. That was the Vincents that won all those titles in the 2010s. Like, that was just pure determination. I think Dara Cummins coming in at centre half back from Sligo, he's a cracking player. Like, he's a really, really good player at 6 there for St. Vincent's. Going forward, Mossy Quinn still doing the business. Cian Dunn has emerged as a really, really, good scoring outlet for St. Vincent's, and Sean Lowry is always capable of hitting the back of the net pretty much at any moment. So I do expect Vincent's to win, because I just think Vincent's, they have that confidence. Like, they're here now. They're at the quarterfinal stage. And as you were saying, they have a potential route to the final now. I think they're going to stick their chests out and be a lot more confident, and I can see them getting over the line in this game.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. In fairness, they've looked very, very good. I've been really, really impressed with them so far. So I fancy them to nick it ever so slightly.